What's going on, everybody? ProphecyWiz, and today is the start of an awesome new series, the ProphecyWiz Competitive Yu-Gi-Oh! Podcast. In this series, we're going to have a ton of awesome guests, some of the best players to ever play the game. We're going to be talking about Yu-Gi-Oh! Currently, their backstory, some game theory, and the current meta. So definitely be sure to stay tuned into this for some updates at the end. And in today's episode, we have a special guest, a crowd favorite, a multi-time champion, a multi-YCS champion, a legend and icon to the Yu-Gi-Oh! TCG, Pack TCG. What's going on, brother? How we doing?
I'm good. What's up, guys? Thanks for having me on. Yeah, excited to get on here and just talk about Yu-Gi-Oh! So, yeah.
Absolutely. Awesome. So let's pop right into it. The first question I want to know, and I think a lot of other people want to know, is how did you get back into Yu-Gi-Oh! Or have you been playing it since the inception?
Yeah, no, good question. So, a lot of people don't know this, but I actually started playing Yu-Gi-Oh! For the first time, actually after Nats of 2019. So, I actually never touched Yu-Gi-Oh! Or played Yu-Gi-Oh! Before prior to that. But I kind of got interested in it because I watched the anime, and one of my really good friends that I met during the summer of 2019 or 2018 even was like, yo, I buy and sell cards for a living. And I'm pretty successful at it. So maybe you should look into it. I was like, you know what? Why not? I already had a full time offer lined up for a job, and then I had some free time after graduating university. So I was like, sure. I decided to kind of learn Yu-Gi-Oh. I originally started off like buying and selling, but at some point I'm like, dude, like I can't buy and sell Yu-Gi-Oh cards without knowing what these cards do. So I decided to take that extra step to kind of learn a little bit more about the game, how it's played, what the meta is. And I felt like it would help me a lot better to like buy and sell cards. But eventually, I like just fell in love with the game. I got addicted, and I was like, oh my god, I just want to keep playing. So I stopped buying selling cards and just focus mainly just playing. And then my channel is like kind of like documenting that, I guess, progression from like first like from a guy completely new to playing Yu-Gi-Oh to hopefully to make it to like the top of the Yu-Gi-Oh ladder in terms of competitive play.
That's awesome. That's super unique. That's something different than I feel like I've ever heard of. Somebody is like
Mhm.
started and wasn't really playing and started from the vending side, just completely didn't like. I feel like a lot of the people start playing and then want the financial gain, so they head into vending. So that's super interesting.
Yep.
I remember when you won your first event. I actually think I was there at the Pro Play Games.
Yeah,
Do you remember
probably.
that
Yeah.
with Altergeist?
Yes, I do.
That was years
Yeah, with
ago.
Alter guys.
That was good
Yeah.
times. Right. So
Yeah,
what?
yeah, that was.
Go ahead.
What's up?
No, go
No,
ahead.
I remember that event because I wasn't even supposed to come. Like it was so random.
Really?
Yeah, because like the backstory is, I didn't book my flight. I had no invite because it's PPG Nats and I didn't
Mm-hmm.
attend any other PPG events. And so I literally just showed up because my friend told me to on a whim. And I did an LCQ the day before, made it in through the LCQ, and I was like, I guess here I am. And then yeah, the rest is history.
Yeah,
But
that's
yeah, that was my
insane.
first event. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the pickup, right? I feel like that was like when you started to get like popular.
I
Right?
think
Like people
after
started to
that
know about
event,
you.
yeah, after that event, it kind of like because the live stream at the time was, I believe, done by Simo and
Mm-hmm.
Gage, and it like there's a lot of people watching the PPGs back in the day, and that definitely helped like from a recognition perspective, got people to like know me a little bit better, and then from there it was like it jump started into like I went with Sam and Steven on a 3v3 YCS together in Vegas in 2020, and that was
Mm-hmm.
my first YCS ever as well. But I
Really?
got to team up with Sam and Steven, and we got 17th, which is like basically one placement away from making top cut, and it would have been epic if I could like obviously make top cut at my first YCS ever. But yeah, that's kind of like the and then the rest was as COVID hit. I started grinding during COVID, played a lot of DB, like just analyzed my gameplay, really just focused on like trying to improve at the game. And then like better players started to take notice of me, and then I started getting to like testing circles, and I started becoming friends with a lot of the other well-known players, um and then obviously after COVID came, like after COVID died out, like I started traveling more to IRL events because I mean, you get to save so much money during COVID, even though it was like such a shitty time.
True.
So saved up a bunch of money, started traveling immediately after COVID died out, just so because I've only been to one IRL YCS prior to that, so I kind of like wanted more of that, and then yeah, I started traveling, went on a crazy traveling spree. But yeah, it wasn't all like glory though. Like I remember like my first 5-6 YCSs after COVID kind of like went away. I like bubbled all of them. So like I was one round short or like
Hmm.
getting 33rd or 65th
Oh,
like
that's
multiple
tough.
times, and yeah, it can be like frustrating, but like it's like more about like like thinking about what you could do better and like trying to keep positive mindset.
I totally
Yeah.
agree. So that definitely segues into another one of the questions I want to ask. I definitely wanted to ask, like, how did you get so good so quickly? And like, what your kind of thoughts on DB were? That's definitely something that I feel like I see. Like, I'm huge on myself, and I see a lot of players talk about when they talk about just like getting a lot better quickly at Yu-Gi-Oh.
So like DB is really good because it helps you get like a lot of reps in. So if you think about like the gym, right? Excuse me, I just like choked on water. But if you think about like going to the gym,
Hmm.
in order to like train your body, you're gonna have to like do a lot of reps, right? Time under tension, all that good stuff, right? But you have to put in the work, and at some point you start like developing muscle memory, and then once it becomes easier, you gotta like up the volume. So same thing with like Yu-Gi-Oh, kind of where um I feel like because I was a newer player, I didn't have a lot of reps in. Like I just played way less than everyone else naturally
Hmm.
because I started way later. So I was like, in order to make up for lost time, I decided to just go on like a crazy dealing book grind. Where I just got in as many reps as possible. I entered all the online tournaments, all the DB tournaments, just because, like I said, it was just more about like you have to get the reps in. And then afterwards, you have to make sure that the reps you're getting in are, I guess, good form. So I would like make sure that uh after these games, I would like VOD review the gameplay, see like if what I was doing was like correct, like why did I lose this game state here, but just kind of like asking me those questions that I think helps. Like if you do this like every day or you do this on like a continuous basis, at some point it becomes internalized to you, so that when you do get to like the YCS level or like when you get to like playing more events and more tournaments, it becomes like almost second nature to you. And I think that's what the point of that, I guess, training arc was kind of like to get me in shape to become like almost second nature when it came to like just playing well. Uh, but and then so that was like from a technical perspective how I got a lot better. I just played a lot, reviewed a lot of my own gameplay, and then from a deck building perspective, I think like that kind of like came as I started, because like I think that not everyone's gonna have someone else to build their decks for them, so you kind of have to like also learn how to build your own decks. And I think I got like a lot of inspiration from like Jesse, because I actually signed up for coaching with Jesse like way back in the day. And even though we only like I think had 1 or 2 sessions, I think a lot of like the stuff you talked about like kind of resonates with me in terms of like always having rationale for why you have what card is in your deck, right? Like
Hmm.
40 is like kind of the floor, but not like it's 40 is the floor. It means like that's like the smallest amount of cards you can play in a deck, but that doesn't mean that you have to always play decks at 40, because you can achieve like consistency even with more cards, right? It just
Hmm.
depends on like the quality of the cards. But at some point, like in order to compensate, you know, um, like for I guess like percentages and like drawing more hand traps and stuff like that, it can only be achieved by adding more hand traps, and then going above 40 or cutting your engine cards and staying at 40, right? And so like, you got to find a good balance and not just play 40 just because, you everyone else back in the day played 40. Um I think like you can play whatever card count you want as long as you have proper justification and rationale for why which cards in your deck. I think like the hardest part for a lot of players is to be able to explain like why are these cards in my deck. But I think like if you can get to like a good point where you can, then obviously it helps. But I think those two aspects, um by like because I like was refining them a lot, I applied them a lot because it was like during COVID where all I had was I just played on DB. I just streamed, played
Hmm.
DB. I played like all the tournaments. I played all the remote tournaments. I played all the luxury gaming tournaments too that were really big in the
Yeah,
scene
yeah, I
during
played
the
a bunch of
time.
those as well. Yep.
And yeah, like I said, those type of things like really help to, I guess, transition me to like playing YC's IRL. But I think like I feel like I didn't do as well IRL immediately because I was missing some factors of like just playing in person is very different, like
Mm-hmm.
atmospheres wise. You're not at the comfort of your own home, and like there's like body language, there's just like a lot of other factors. And so I think that it took me a while to like get used to because there's also like the nerves aspect, right? Like when you're playing in
Mm-hmm.
person compared to like behind a camera, it's like a lot easier. Like you're not really gonna get nervous if you're like it's at least like it's less likely for you to get nervous
Mm-hmm.
if you're playing in the comfort of your own home behind like a computer screen, right?
Right.
But if you're playing at like the main stage, feature matches, those things could impact your gameplay, and obviously like working on that is like I think really important as well. So yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the nice things about playing a ton too that I've noticed myself with like the pressure is like if you just play so much, it's like you said the muscle memory thing. So like if you
Yep.
like I've had 12 Konami feature matches, played Christian Arena, like some of the best people in the game. I've never lost a Konami feature match. That's knock on wood, right? Because now I'm gonna lose one. But I like the not getting nervous about being in a much higher pressure situation is definitely like just having played so many reps. That's definitely something you could tell in a lot of your gameplay that you've just played each and every deck that you're playing. Like I actually watched your Runic Whitewood deck the other day, and
Oh
I was
yeah.
like, I cannot believe he can play that deck. So like that deck is so strong. I played it on DB myself I play every deck. I'm sure you do too, just to be able like
Yeah.
to make sure I can interact appropriately against it. Be sure I'm making the right decisions. Everything is like is
Yeah.
as good as I think it is, or see different combo lines, different scenarios and all that good stuff. Which cards are going to be good against what. But when I was playing it, I was like, man, I don't know if I could see myself playing this at a tournament because it's like I could see myself going
It's
into
taxing.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I seen you playing it,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, he plays that deck really fast. Like that is how you could play a deck like that that's super strong and you just play it really fast. It was clear that you were like clearly practiced and not just ripping through for the first time. That you had clearly put some time in with those cards. So it's definitely something that's
Yeah.
I feel like super good insight for people is just grinding, like playing the game. It's the game. I know a lot of people see the theory with people like Jesse. I know Jesse talks about this a lot, and
Yep.
it's correct for him that like he says like, oh, I don't play as much, like it's a lot theory, and like there is a lot of things that are theory, right? You like people work regular jobs, but as far as like especially when you're starting out, like the practice really is super important. It's
Yeah.
just playing and playing and playing, and it does stay important. Jesse's also a very special character, right? That you
Yeah, so
clearly are
I
too.
have
You've won
the
multiple times.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of actually testing with Jesse for multiple YCSs. Like
Mm-hmm.
we the weekend he won Unchained at YCS Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
The weekend right before that, I won with Unchained in Sao Paulo with my teammates,
Uh-huh.
and we actually just all played the same deck. And yeah, the Discord we made was that we were going to be YCS Cancun champions, Vancouver champions, and Sao Paulo champions,
Yeah,
and
that's
we got
sweet.
2 out of 3. So it
Yeah,
was
that's crazy.
pretty good. Yeah. So, but to go back on the point on testing and what you were saying about Jesse, how he doesn't play as much, which I've seen firsthand. Like after testing with Jesse, like that he just does like all the theory. He doesn't actually play. He watch us play majority of the time, or you look at our replays. But it's because he's done a lot of like the legwork already leading up to this. Like he's been playing since he was a kid, like actually a kid.
Right.
Like I think he was the Dragon Duel champion for YCS Toronto 2011, which is the same YCS that Billy won. Fun fact.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so just like he's actually been playing forever, and so like he's done a lot of like the reps already, and so for him like he just needs to get there, and like you know, so that's why like I would say like it's not it's because like we're much newer players to the game. Like I'm a much newer player to the game. Like I have to put in a lot of that legwork, but I think once you set up a really strong foundation for yourself, right? I think you can also get to that point as well, in my opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's nice to kind of be able to go over some of the things for the people who are brand new and want to start getting better at the game, the people who have been playing for a while but aren't where they want to be, and some people who are still are already really good at the game. Because it's lots of different audience members and people who are looking for different stuff. So speaking of the game, what are some of your personal goals now that you're a YCS multiple time YCS champion. What are some of your goals
Yeah.
inside the game? That's crazy.
So I want to be able to attend the World Championship. So that's kind of like my goal. I haven't been yet, and I think like for me, going to the World Championship would be like an insane feat. And then obviously like trying to win Worlds, I would be insane. You know, Ruben won Worlds last year, and then Paulie also won Worlds. Sorry, Ruben won Worlds this year, and then Paulie won last year, and I know both of them really well.
Hmm.
So I think like it's possible to achieve what they've done. So I think like seeing them do it is like super inspirational. Because like you know I've been like good friends with both of them. And and yeah, like I think like seeing that dominance from a TCG perspective in like the world
Hmm.
stage is just like it's just amazing. So I think like that's kind of my like that's like my main goal at the moment to attend the world championship and to represent North America and then hopefully get us another third year in a row, another victory. So yeah.
Heck yeah. Does that mean your world's grinding again this year?
Yeah, I will be. Yeah, so I'll be grinding like you know the regional scene, the YCSs. I'll be attending all of them, so it should be exciting. Yeah,
That's awesome. So that means everybody's gonna have tons of chances to meet you in person, all that good stuff this year. That's
yeah,
super exciting, and yeah, that's definitely a great way to get there. You know, it's I'm super happy that they put that system in. The first year was super tough for you know, I think it was just like the first two people, and then we had people. I know we had Darren Stevenson like living in the United States for a while,
yeah,
and yeah, because we just have like a lot more regionals and things than they have. So it's I
yep,
feel like the new system they have is definitely really nice. The first year I never really was like grinding it, but I finished top 20, but there was a huge gap between like number one, two, three, and so between
hmm,
the you know, the bottom half. It was just like I was doing
yeah,
like the same thing you said. It was just like right before COVID. So I started when like right around when ABCs came out, so it was go
okay,
just before, right? Like similar timing ish though. So I was doing kind of the same thing, just like double regionaling, going to just everything that was possible. That was within a 6 8 hour drive, just playing as
yeah,
much as possible because it's just like you said, the best way to get better. I had a laptop, so Dueling Book was I played, but it wasn't you know, wasn't as like convenient as it is to play now. So that's definitely
hmm,
super super helpful, super exciting that you're doing the grind this year. I hope to see you at Worlds. Hopefully yeah, hopefully you make it. I have nothing but faith. I
yeah,
think everybody wants to see
but
you make it. You know, you deserved it this year.
yeah. I think that's like the only thing left to my like that's like the one thing I really want next. I think yeah, so that's kind of like what I'm just working towards at the moment. Yeah.
Would Master Duel Awards make you happy, or is it specifically TCG?
I think Master Worlds would like I would be like happy with, but I think for me I really want to go towards TCG overall. Like but I have all the respect and love for people who play Master Duel.
Hmm.
I just think that like I kind of want to finish like in the TCG category. Like I think that's like the last thing I want to do TCG wise.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna be doing both this year. Like I'll grind the Master Duel thing as well. Like I've been playing a lot of Master Duel actually. We have a Duelist Cup next weekend.
Hmm.
And yeah, I've been playing a lot of Master Duel. So I definitely been training for the Duelist Cups as well. So so yeah, I think like I'll be happy either or. But personally, my biggest goal is definitely to go for TCG, just because like it's I just love that playing in person feel.
Hmm.
But I would also be happy with MD as well. Yeah.
That's fair. So yeah, it definitely sounds like you want to make it in the TCG. I feel like that's everybody's goal inevitably. I know Joshua Schmitz had said that, you know, he's been a world champion now in Master Duel, but that's still something that he like has on his bucket list that he wants to win with the TCG. So it
Yeah.
definitely seems like everybody's goal. But you've crossed out a lot of like crossed off a lot of the goals that people have had, right? You've you know, some people's goal is to top YCS, and then once you top, you know, it's to have multiple tops, and once you have multiple tops, it's to win. You know,
Yeah.
and you know, now you've won multiple times, which I'd assume is what happens after you win.
Yeah.
I don't know. I haven't won, so
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely awesome. So speaking of content, like I said, I'm gonna have all of Pack's links below. I know you had mentioned that you did the coaching. I know you do Metafy, so I'll drop that link below for anybody who
Perfect.
wants to check out Pack's coaching. I definitely think like things like that are worth it. I'm always like personally in any different thing that I've done, I've always found that to be one of the things that is just like well worth it is if you are severely behind with something, like you can talk to somebody who, especially if your local area doesn't have, even if you guys have OTSs, if you feel like the competitive level is not to the same top tier, and it's harder to get into circles,
Yeah.
that's something awesome to do for people. So I'll definitely make sure to drop that below. And I've noticed you've been posting definitely a bit more consistently recently. So in regards
Yeah.
to the content, is that something that you are doing full time? Are you still working full time? Regular job. I know you said you had taken an offer right when you had started, but your content's definitely blown out. And is that something you want to do in the future? If not,
Yeah. Basically, yeah. So basically, what I've been doing is I've definitely been trying to focus a lot more on content as well. Just because I think it's like a good way to kind of like give back, help the community out as well.
hmm
But I do work full time, contrary to popular belief, I guess. Um, I uh, I have a full time job, so it can get quite difficult managing that and like trying to manage practicing and managing like just making sure like you're at the top of your game. So and then of course like making content as well. So yeah, I've been trying to find a good balance. But yeah, I think I have been trying to become more active on social media and put out that content for people.
yeah, I mean, you've been crushing it. Your videos all seem to crush. I mean, people obviously, I'd say you're probably the crowd favorite, right, in the community. So it's really nice to see. People definitely enjoy watching the duel videos, watching all of the insight because you have such great insight. You know what I mean? You do so much playtesting and all that good stuff, and you have the results to show for it. So that's super exciting for everybody. I've been enjoying it, and I'm yeah, definitely happy you're doing a lot more content recently. I know you have been doing content for a long time, but recently it's been like multiple uploads a week. It seemed like, so that's definitely super
Yeah,
exciting.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, for sure.
for YC, one thing I noticed is that like you tend to test a lot of different decks for YCS. That is one thing I had
Yeah.
a question on, and I think a lot of people probably have questions on. Is like that is something that I like. I'm sure there are people who play a lot more than me, but you also work a full time job, and I feel like I
Mhm.
play as much as I possibly can. Right, I live with my girlfriend. I know people have like life situations, but I play 7 days a week. A 30-hour stream last weekend. I'm actually doing a 40-hour stream this weekend, so it'll be 7 a.m. To about 11 p.m. on Sunday. 7 a.m. on Saturday to 11 p.m. on Sunday. As much as possible, I play about 4 or 5 hours every single day, but I sometimes find it hard to dig super deep with a bunch of different decks. It's like I can play them. Like I've already played with the Azamina cards quite a few times
Mhm.
just to have an understanding of how I feel like they're gonna work, all that stuff. But it seems like you are testing 5, 6, 7 different decks to such a deep level that a lot of other people like never get to. They might know like the slight basis, but you seem to be able to like find competitive
Yeah.
edges with all those decks and then decide which competitive edge is the best. How is it that
Yeah.
you find the time for that? Do you slim it down quickly, or how does that work?
Well, I have a system in place on like how I decide to like start looking at a deck. But mainly what I do is I do pay attention to a lot of like even like the regionals. Like I always see like the weird decks that do well. Like fun fact, for example, the reason why I started playing Unchained, which was like the secret, I guess, like deck at the time or whatever, like
Mm-hmm.
last year was because I started looking at the regional data and I saw that Unchained kept doing really well. I didn't understand why.
Mm-hmm.
So I started playing a little bit of Unchained and then I was like, wait, hold up. This deck is kind of just like kind of nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, but like, but the thing is, this deck went under a lot of people's radar because it wasn't in the OCG, because it was a deck that didn't really play well in the Maxi, and the OCG never really played it. So because you couldn't find it on Road to the King, like you won't find a Road to the King Unchained deck, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, um, but that for me doesn't really deter me. Like it doesn't matter. I just look at empirical data and look at, okay, why does this deck have like the second most tops in a week when Kashtira is, the Kashtira is like the best deck in the format? Like how is that even possible? Because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people play Unchained as a pet deck. So for me it's like these are literal people who are just picking up the deck like after it got support again. They've always played it. Now there's new support, and they're like topping regionals for the first time ever. Like so like I'm watching all these profiles, I'm getting a better understanding of it. and I'm like, damn, this deck actually is kind of insane. So I started playing it like heavily, and I actually even started improving some of the standard combos that people are doing, because
Mm-hmm.
how I approach like new decks is like I would usually like take a look at what's already available to us in terms of information, and then look for ways to kind of innovate and like improve on like pre I guess existing data. So like for example, like with one tour guide, I was able to figure out how to beat Nibiru, which
Mm-hmm.
everyone thought that the deck lost to Nib at the time, which I never lost to Nib ever. And then yeah, and then like determining like, okay, what ratios like makes the most sense, right? Like so or like should you play tour guide or should you play like more Rakeas? And everyone at the time was like basically flaming me, because they're like, or not flaming me, but like the general the consensus in the community at the time was that tour guide sucks. Like you
Uh-huh.
should play more Unchained names, uh because like if you get stopped, like it's better to have Rakea with a trap set or something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
But then I like decided to play tour guide, because I was like explaining that if you open tour guide, you can like beat Nib. And if you open tour guide plus any trap, you can beat like pretty much like any combination of hand traps your opponent have.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was like, yeah, so that's why I decided to keep playing it. Even though it wasn't really popular, because a lot of people use 2 cards to beat Nib. I was using 1, so it's like a really big difference in terms of like efficiency with card economy. Um, but yeah, that's like an example of how like I found an edge. And because a lot of people would think that like it's really hard to find an edge this format, but like if you do find those instances where you find an edge, it's like 99% of the time like a YCS win, right?
Uh-huh.
Like I won that format, then Jesse won right after. And then I think in Cancun, the full under ease deck won, because it was like the hard counter to Unchain.
Right.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but you can see that it was like Unchain and like decks that countered Unchain that did well in those 3 weeks span. And keep in mind, like a Rise Star was legal during this time, so there's like a format where like you had Kashtira like semi full power, right? They had one Rise Star, I guess that was like the difference.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah, I remember that super vividly. I was actually seeing that deck the first time. It was might have been like just a week before I was playing Iron Man's on the Coliseum
yeah,
with a buddy of mine, Colin. It was actually unfortunately on the DB grinder this one, but we had played and the we beat the first kid, and the second kid swept us, but beat both of us with Unchained, and we are like, man, that must have been like. I watched like we obviously watched it back and we're like, what could we have done there? Wasn't super familiar. Like I knew what all the Unchained cards did, but I wasn't like wasn't familiar as with the matchup as he was with our decks. I was playing Labyrinth, my buddy was playing Kashtira. He was obviously much more familiar with Unchained into those. So we went back, kind of were like, all right, what could we have done differently? Like that shouldn't have happened. The deck's not good, blah blah blah. And then we watched back, and it was like I would have actually done all the same things I did. And then the DB grinder did the. Obviously, they sent it into there, and he was like, "Yeah, I would have done the same things, but it was good." And then turned out the deck actually was just really good. Like the deck was
yeah,
insane. It was like an undiscovered thing, and that's always really cool when that you were able
yeah,
to take advantage of that, win the YCS with it right away, and that people were like are always able to find things. I'm always like a big proponent of that, of like telling people to make their own decisions on like cards and decks based on like obviously you need to assess like what you're going to be playing against at a tournament based on representation and things like that, but what deck you're individually piloting at the event can be totally different depending on what how you view certain things, right? Like I know like I tend to play like a similar deck oftentimes. Like now I've been playing Voiceless for a while, but there was like specific reasons I decided to play that deck. It wasn't just like, oh, I really enjoy this. Like I assessed all the other decisions, and like I decided for nationals, right, that I played that I won a case tournament right the day before nationals with it. Unfortunately, I bubbled out at day 2 and then bubbled out of the main event of nationals. But the reason that I had decided I wanted to play that deck was I felt like I was having a hard time finding a competitive advantage in the Snake Eye mirror, and I also knew that the Fiendsmith cards were coming out, and I didn't think that I could show up and play perfectly with the Brain of
yeah.
Fiendsmith cards. It was going to be tough to be able to make sure that I was playing with 100% accuracy, and that's something I'm huge on. It's like it's a double-edged sword, obviously, right, in the misplaying thing, because you always want to look at like what could I have done better, which is something I highly suggest to all of the viewers. Is like, don't worry about like, oh, he sacked me. Like, is there absolutely anything you could have done? Because even if your opponent drew insane, like oftentimes it really is
Yeah.
genuinely something you could have done That's when you win too. I feel like a lot of people, if you win majority of the times, they just like, oh, I won, like just beat them with this. But think about, did you play your cards perfectly? Like you're already at the event. You might as well be thinking about Yu-Gi-Oh, analyzing it a bit deeper, and all that good stuff. And that's kind of like one of the reasons why I decided to play that deck was I couldn't find an advantage with the Snake Eye deck. I didn't think like for sure I'm beating these people. Like if I queue this person every single time, I'm going to beat them because like with X reason, right? Like I couldn't find that with the Snake Eye deck in time, especially with the brand new cards coming the day before, which was unfortunate. And whether or not that was correct, right? I also thought in a hand trap where I can play 22 hand traps, they're playing about the same, but their hand traps trade back and forth. Where like barrier, you have to exactly ogre. It's going to sit there, and you're going to have to continue trading with that card. Not saying that voiceless was the correct. I'm happy I played it there. Not trying to say that like that was the correct. Everybody should have been playing voiceless at Nats, but just saying that like picking, just having a justified reason why you're playing something at an event is oftentimes good enough, and that was one of the other things I wanted to ask you about was what are your thoughts on either playing a deck super, super well or playing a meta deck at an event and making that decision? Like, I know you're insane with branded. I oftentimes will reference like you with the branded deck or like Jesse with tier, right? Where I'm like, I feel like this, but like it feels different when somebody like that is playing it. Somebody who rarely makes mistakes and is playing just at a super high level, at a higher level than you're going to see oftentimes if you're not playing that deck. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so like I think that like the from like a deck building perspective, like the best deck isn't always the best deck choice. So like just because the deck is the best deck, it doesn't always mean you have to play it.
Mm-hmm.
And then second, I think that uh like you shouldn't just play the best deck just because it's the strongest deck, especially if you don't know how to play it. Because at that point, it's like, you like if you don't know how to use the tools provided to you, you're not going to be able to achieve like the same success other players are.
Mm-hmm.
That's the reason why like you see players consistently topping with like the Snake Eye deck, but other players won't have the same success with that deck because
Mm-hmm.
essentially, if you really think about it, um, these people just played it better. Like even though like deck can like be, like even though the deck is like the same across like players, um, yeah, it's just like it's just pretty much like I think like playing it like at a very high level is like really important. So yeah, so if I had to pick, I would play the deck that I think is um that I'm definitely way more comfortable with than quote unquote the best deck. But I would also add a caveat. I feel like that only happens if you don't have the time to like maybe like learn a deck or something along those
Mm-hmm.
lines. But I think that if you wanted to get good at a deck, you definitely can. So like it shouldn't just be like, oh, I don't know how to play this deck, I'm not gonna try to learn it. It should be like you try to learn it, but there's not enough time. So sure, just play the deck you're more comfortable with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think that should be otherwise people will never like try to like play something else if that makes sense. But yeah, I
Yeah,
play
yeah.
everything like and I think like yeah, I look to try to make sure I play the decks at a high level, even if they're like rogue or anything along those lines. Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely I had noticed you played the Snake Eye deck right at the NAWCQ. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people were wondering if you would play branded at that. It's obviously like
Yeah.
like
Yeah. I wish
the
I
best
played
with that
branded.
deck. But you wish
Yeah.
if you could go back, you would have played branded.
I think I would have because like I want to know what would have happened, and so I don't
That's
know what would
fair.
have happened, but I definitely put a lot of time into playing branded. It was like a really hard deck actually.
Hmm.
But yeah, I just put in a lot of effort to like really play it really well, and it was like really fun, honestly, taking on like a hard deck to pick up. So
So a couple of game theory questions that I see a lot of like questions with the community of, and I wanted to pick your brain on. Some I think we have similar theories on. Some I think we have like separate theories on. So the first one is I asked this because I've seen people win YCSs with it. Is like people playing cards that I feel like certain cards in the game. My personal opinion is that like they belong at either like 0, 1, or 3 copies. The only reason they really should be put at 1 is for something like crossout, because we have 3 crossout. Like, you could justify playing like something like Nibiru comes to mind for me, is that you can mid game a Nibiru, but the best time, like if you're going, especially if you're like siding a card like Nibiru, you're trying to open it right away, right? Like, you're trying to stop your opponent while they're comboing, drawing it with another hand trap. You're not trying to mid game into a Nibiru. But I've seen so many people win YCSs with like something like 2 copies of that, or Droll, or evenly matched. What are your thoughts on something like that?
Yeah, I usually, for me, like I have a really easy deck building philosophy. It's like I just play every card at 3 if it's a good card, and then all my cards are at 1 if they're limited, or their function is for the combo lines, or their function is for utility. And then all the two ofs are kind of like, you just need to have a second copy of the deck for like XYZ factors,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or like, you need a second copy for like, like the situation, like for example, like I play 2 Quem in my branded deck because a lot of people could make an argument to play 1, but the second one comes up to like beat Nibru.
Mm-hmm.
So like I have a second one in my deck just because if I ever get nibbed, then I want a second copy. And then it comes up as well when you make Grand Gun on your opponent's turn to like tag out into a second Quem if you have to start with Quem on your opening line. So like but like that is like, for me, like a card like that's a 2 of. Like I don't actually want to draw it, but if I do draw it, I need a second copy in my deck. And if I don't draw it at all, I still need 2 copies in my deck to, you know, play around Nibiru. So yeah.
Okay, so it definitely looks like we have like a similar theory on that. Is that like
Hmm.
certain cards are just either max on them, like if there's a specific reason, where like cross out, like I guess you could play 1 copy of it. Like it's possible people might want to cross out the new Pirelli when it comes out, or the
Yeah.
Fuvros rather. So that kind of thing. But outside of that, cards like that probably just more so belong at 3 copies. The next one is a bit different. So, in regards to like playing breakers versus hand traps, I know you've played like tons of decks that play both of either one. For the way that I've always like generally looked at it is like if I'm playing hand traps, I try to just max on hand traps rather than playing like some and some. The reason for that oftentimes is like I've used Snake Eye as an example, is like back with the original Snake Eye, right? If they start with Snake Eyes Ash and or start with Witch, right, and you Mourner it, and then they normal summon Snake Eyes Ash and you stop it. If you would have had a Bisteel, right, like you can Bisteel the Fiendsmith line, but if you don't and they just do the entire Fiendsmith combo with Beatrice, they are gonna end on almost the exact same thing they would have in the first place. Where
Yeah.
I would have rather just had those 2 cards been board breakers rather than like those 2 hand traps, and now I have a single board breaker to try to deal with Appaloosa and like all the other friends that are associated with that board. That was kind of how I was felt about that. But I feel like I see a lot of people like doing like mixes. They'll play like 9 to 12 hand traps, and then they'll play like Dark Ruler No More or Lightning Storms. I know sometimes like you need Lightning Storm because you're playing you don't have like back row
Yeah.
removal. But what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So I definitely am on the approach as well, where you would usually commit to one or the other. Um, I think there that isn't always going to be the case though, because
Mhm.
like right now we're in a format where Yubel is like the best deck, and what I've been experimenting with, for example, is I use a combination of breakers and bestials,
Mhm.
because if you activate a breaker into the Yubel deck, they can use DSR to negate it. Even though, because they have like trap cards that can chain. So like if you activate Dark Ruler, they can chain a trap, and then Dark Ruler, they'll be able to negate Dark Ruler still.
Mhm.
Um, and then for example, for like what do you call it? The reason why I want to play Bestials, for example, with like breakers, is that I can use the Bestials to like make sure they don't get access to DSRA,
Uh
or
huh.
bans their Sequentia, so they can't equip to it, and basically ensure that like if I activate a card like Dark Ruler No More, it just resolves, right? So
Yep.
like that's why like it's like even though they're like kind of like thought processes, you should always try to like evaluate like, does it even make sense in the current
Mhm.
meta? and not like it's not really just like a black and white. You play all hand traps, you play all breakers. Sometimes like you have to do both. Especially as the meta asks for it. Even in like the Yubel mirror, like the quality hand traps like just goes down after Ash, Veiler, Imperm, Nib, Bestials, right? Like and then Chummy
Uh-huh.
Phantasme are good, but they're only drawing you to more hand traps. And like I think at some point you need to like combine those Chummy Phantasmes with some breakers so you can like try to hand trap them and then like because like they'll always land on rage, so then maybe you play like a Metatronus to answer the rage, right? So
Hmm.
like so it's like I think you still need to I think like it's in some scenarios you will need to combine hand traps and breakers because of how powerful these decks have gotten. So like I don't think you can consistently hand trap these decks anymore. And make sure that and then have it so that they pass on nothing, right?
Right. Yeah, I totally agree. I definitely think that's an interesting way of looking at it. I heard Joshua Schmidt had mentioned the Bastille interaction in his video he actually put out earlier. So it's definitely something like super smart to consider, think about. It's yeah, especially the quality of hand traps thing, right? That's something that I've been like struggling with a bit is like trying to find enough hand traps that are good against that deck because it's a lot of them feel a lot more miss than hit, right? There's like the specific ones that are just like generic, really, really strong, but a lot of them just do not do the trick. I've not been like a big fan of Ogre. Even Nib to me oftentimes feels not like not the greatest against that deck. So yeah, yeah, definitely appreciate that insight and different take. And you're right. A lot of the decks have just gotten so strong as of recent that it's really hard to just like consistently hand trap them or consistently break the board, right? Like you don't draw any hand traps and it's the boards are just out of control with what they can do. And we still have obviously like the puppet deck and all that good stuff. Obviously that deck was weakened a bit, but to my understanding, I think they can still
Yeah.
one card FTK, which is disappointing, but I haven't seen too much of it, so that's super nice. So in speaking of the current format, what are your thoughts on the current format?
Um, I think it's like actually a little bit worse than last one because I think like Yubel's a lot harder to beat than Snake Eyes. So I think like that's kind of like the issue at the moment where like
Mm-hmm.
the Yubel deck is just so crazy. And like I said, it's significantly harder um to beat those decks. Because like you can't really find like a good solution at the moment to like answer the Yubel board. I think like there might be something, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I still have to like test. But I think like overall it's like a little bit worse. But
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Yuga's just gonna have like bad and good formats. That's just how it goes, pretty much. Yeah.
Do you think the next upcoming set, the Rage of the Abyss, is going to help or hurt the format?
I
We have
think
Chummy and
it'll slow the
Azamina.
format a lot down with the new Chummy. People will have to get a little bit more creative on their deck choice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily gonna be a good or a bad thing, but that's definitely gonna be the case where um we're gonna have to definitely reevaluate uh like what decks are like efficient and good under the new Chummy card. So I I personally think that new Chummy card is gonna dramatically change the way like the game is being played. And yeah, so yeah, I think that'll be kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. That card's going to be really polarizing, and it's going to be good against some of the next like few decks. The Snake Eye deck at first. So like this format, I feel like right this second, I feel like Snake Eye is like it's in a great spot to play against because I feel like it has like fairly easy choke points. Like I feel like it is like easy. I've had like a very easy time stopping the Snake Eye deck. I think the Azumina cards are
Yeah.
definitely crazy. Like you could argue it's going to be better than it ever was. Omni negates every turn is pretty good, and yeah, the new continuous. They also do have good answers though. Like we'll have good answers with like Ogre if you do decide to play that. It's weird because I feel like it's kind of awkwardly positioned against Ubel, but Droll is also still going to be really good. And then one thing I've definitely been thinking about a bit with the new format that's going to be like change things dramatically in my opinion is that the fact that the Tempai deck like they lost a like big cards with the field spell and prosperity going to one, but the new Fubaros card like having three of that and three shifter is like a big deal, right? It's like now it feels like kind of
Yeah.
random. It feels like they oftentimes need shifter to like consistently win, but now they're gonna have like six cards like that against some of the decks, right? Like Snake Eye especially with the Fiendsmith wants to summon actually like 10 times from the extra deck. So that's going to change the dynamic of things. Like, are they going to be cutting the Fiendsmith, playing the new Dominus card? There's going to be it's going to be really interesting. I think that card's going to be neat, and it's I'm glad that it doesn't work like Maxi, where it you can only use it going second. I think that's going to be really cool and create like really interesting dynamic with like it and the other chummy. Like our decks that get hit hard enough with it, gonna start playing Cross Out Designator for that chummy, and like does that make the other chummy moderately better? Because people aren't ever going to be crossing that out, I'd imagine, right? You're not going to be playing both chummy bricks for it, right? You're just going to be playing the one that hurts you worse. I think it's really interesting. I think like the YuBell deck can give you, they can put up 4 to 5 interruptions, giving you 3 draws, which still feels like a lot. But you cannot give. I don't think you can give Tempai 3 draws. I think they still crack that board. So that's it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be really fun. It's at least gonna be different. I do think it's still going to be a lot of YuBell, Snake Eye, and Tempai at the top. That never really bothered me. I kind of just like accept what the format is, play and have fun either way. I think it could be a much worse. Where I know a lot of people love tier formats, so I might get some hate for this one, but I think like a format like tier where you have no choice other than to select from a different like select few decks, right? Like I could say you could play 10 different decks right now, and they're all great choices. Like I think Rescue Ace, I haven't seen much of like this format so far. I know we have like some of the first YCS coming up, so that maybe we'll see a little bit different. But I thought that deck was like fairly well positioned right now, and I haven't seen like very much of it. But that card also might get better, right? With the Azumina cards, I think it has the ability to play them. I know non-engines, definitely something for them to consider, but it also doesn't play very much into the new chummy, So is that something that people kind of veer to and start playing? I think it's going to be definitely going to be super exciting, and it's going to be a similar format, but it's going to have like a lot of nuances. So if you guys enjoy stuff like that, I think you guys are going to really enjoy the next format. I think the chummy is going to help a ton, and
the format's going to slow down dramatically. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
This definitely brings room for other decks. People will be able to play the decks that they have fun with. It's always something I've been like a good proponent of. Is that I enjoy people being able to play what they enjoy rather than just having to be forced into playing a certain type of deck. So right. What kind of events do you have coming up in the future?
Yeah, so I'll be attending YCS Cancun and then YCS Niagara in a couple weeks, and then I should be trying to make an appearance out to like Anaheim, Orlando, Vegas next year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so a bunch of watches coming up should be exciting. Don't know if I'm going to any of the European ones this year yet, but yeah, I'll definitely try to look into it more. Yeah.
Cancun, that's exciting. Are you running it back at the same team, or are you not? Are you wanting to keep that concealed so far?
Oh no, Cancun's a 1v1.
Oh, it is 1v1?
Yeah.
What am I thinking of?
Chile. Chile's a
Chile, yes.
Yeah. So I was going to attend, but my passport won't arrive in time. So I'm getting it renewed, so I won't be able to go to Chile, unfortunately. Yeah.
Well, that stinks, but we're definitely excited for you for Cancun, and I'll see you at Niagara. So that's awesome. That's not too far from either of us, I think, right? So
yeah, should be sick. I'm excited for that one. That was my first IRL YCS top, actually. YCS Niagara in 2022. Where I played the Punk Tier Danger Sprite deck. PTSD.
No way.
Yeah. So.
Me too. But 2018. That's crazy.
2018. Oh, nice.
Yeah. Niagara though. That's funny. Right down the road from both of us. So one of the last questions I have is when do you see yourself playing the game until? Do you see yourself just playing endlessly, or do you think you'll play for a few more years, 5 more years?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a hobby for me, right? Like, a lot of people just do this for a living, but I mean, I still have a career and do other things outside of the game. So for me, it's like I think I'll always stop if the game ever dies out. But at the moment, I don't have any plans to. I think as long as there's a strong community, then I think I'll still like that. Yeah.
That's fair.
It's definitely gonna be very community focused, right? Because I know there's like 50 people. Like, I'm not gonna be as motivated to try and do well. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, for sure. It's definitely one of the alerts. I feel like there's so many people that show up and only one person that wins, which is Awesome. It's got to be a great feeling to be that person or part of the team of them people that that you felt. Speaking of, what does it feel like to win a YCS? I know it's probably hard to put into words, but if you could put it into words, what would that feel like?
I think it's like, the first one was like disbelief because I remember I won like multiple one.
Mhm.
That one was crazy because like 200 people for the first one to YCS, friendlies, and I was like, there's no way, like how did this even happen? But I'll be honest, I was actually. I felt like I earned because I was really happy with how I played.
Mhm.
I remember it was like top 32 or top 64. I I won a game state that I could not believe. It was like my opponent had the full virtual award board,
Uh-huh.
the trap, Shen Shen, Crystal Wing, like hand traps, and then I broke the board. And like keep in mind the Prankies monsters don't get their effects under Shen Shen. So I am still to this day have no idea how I won that game.
Yeah, that sounds
But
insane.
I just remember that like I played like really crazy. Um, and I was I was really happy I did because I think everyone thought I was gonna lose because there were like people spectating the games in between the rounds and
Mhm.
stuff. And then I pulled a victory miracle, and then the rest was just history. And I think I played I was just happy with how I played. Sometimes I felt like you win games like that, but you play like terribly.
Mhm.
But I was just happy at how I played, and I was just really excited to be like, oh my goodness, like it actually did pay off. And then the second, third time was insane because I got to do it with my friends.
Mhm.
And they were both like kind of crazy because I remember for Sao Paulo when I won with Unchained, I wasn't even supposed to attend. Like it was like a last minute flight, and my teammates didn't even play the same deck as me. But I just told them like,
Mhm.
"Yo, I'm telling you, Unchained's the goo," and like I just literally could not lose. Like it was just so crazy. I think in the finals, I got eradicated. I got eradicated Ash full labyrinth combo, and I won that game.
Yo, that's nuts.
um, and it was also a miracle because uh, that event was the first South American event ever to be streamed.
Really?
So
I did not know
so
that.
Sao Paulo, Brazil was the first event ever to be streamed, and obviously winning on stream is like insane. With everyone like cheering for you and stuff, so
Mhm.
that was really cool. And then the last time was when I went with Snake Eyes. That one also felt like really nice because it was the first event Snake Eyes was legal, and me and like my testing partners, like Gunther, Luca, like just pretty much like all those guys.
Mhm.
We actually like really made the Snake Eye deck like just completely different than how people like. I think we set the standard for how Snake Eyes should be played because we came up with like a lot of combos that what I thought was like the most efficient at the time, and no one was really playing that way.
Mhm.
And then um and that like just like really helped a lot because like when you have a really strong deck, and then your combos are very efficient, and all you need to do is just like play good for the like wise, and it just like wasn't even close to be honest. Like I played like because everyone at the time thought the Fire King variant was the best because in the OCG everyone played the Fire King variant, right? So
Mhm.
this is like another example of like you can't just look to the OCG to look for like the goo because that's not always going to be the case. But no one really played pure Snake Eyes
Mhm.
leading up to that Y series. Everyone played the Fire King. I think like I played like maybe two pure Snake Eyes and then like legit like 7 or 8 pure Fire King players or Fire King
Oh
players.
wow.
And so and then obviously like I think we came to the conclusion that the pure deck was better, and then we worked on optimizing combo lines, even awkward hands. Like when you
Mhm.
open like for instance, if you open like let me see. I'm trying to remember a good one. Like Jet Synchron plus like Witch,
Uh-huh.
right? You can go like a lot of people would go like Witch pitch Jet, but we came up with a combo to go like normal Jet make Karibo,
Mhm.
and then we would go set normal Witch normal Jet make Karibo Witch sack the Karibo on the board to summon Witch set original.
Mhm.
Then we would go Jet effect, discard a card from hand, bring it back, make Savage,
Mhm.
and then Savage would equip the Karibo, and then we'll activate original, sacking the Karibo that's equipped to Savage,
Mhm.
and that played around Ash Blossom on original. So we got guaranteed access to Snake Eye Engine.
Oh, I like that.
So yeah, and then you would oak back the jet from the banish, so you still
Mhm.
ended on the full savage the full savage baron board. Um, so but that's like an example of like like those type of like edges that actually did matter because I did that combo a couple times where I opened
Mhm.
like 3 hand jabs jet witch. I'm like, yeah, I guess good thing I practiced this. So yeah,
Yeah, that definitely seems to be one of the. I mean, obviously, your technical play is like a big deal, and the amount that you grind is a huge deal. Those are both like super important things, but
yeah,
also your ability to find things like right away in a format, and or like for the upcoming, right? To think about things like that, and not just worry about like what other people in the OCG were doing. To kind of analyze it yourselves and be like,
yeah,
yeah, I feel like the pure is going to be better because that's seems to get it's literally gotten you multiple wins for doing things like that. So
yeah. It was like it
that's
helped me
insane.
get a win that season, and then I think Gunther got 2 YCS wins back to back. With the same theory
Hmm.
um that same season. And so, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's just insane. Yeah. So,
That's awesome. So before we head out, do you want to tell me why Voices is the best deck? I'm kidding. I'm
oh
kidding.
my
I'm kidding.
god,
Uh,
I don't actually don't even think that bad. It's like that bad to be honest. I think like it has some edges right now in the format, so I think it's okay. Like I think like being able to play Dominus Purge is like really broken. Because I think that hand trap is like really good. It's just that there's a limit to which decks could play it. But I think
right.
Dominus Purge is like a reason that I think Voices is not terrible in the format at the moment.
Yeah, I
So
said that about Nadir too. Nadir is definitely like one of the like how
yeah,
nice it plays Nadir is one of the reasons you would play it. Right, going first, it's double engaged, literally search two, draw two. Going second, it's pop two, search two. So
yep,
definitely my favorite deck at the moment, and had to throw that joke
yeah,
in there. So well, I appreciate your time, and for anybody that enjoyed Pack and stayed until the end, I have an awesome announcement. Every other week, this week we have the ProphecyWiz podcast. We're gonna have different guests on every other week, and in the coinciding weeks, Pack was gracious enough to agree to do a podcast together. It's gonna be competitive Yu-Gi-Oh. We're gonna talk about what's going on in the upcoming weeks, what happened in the last few weeks, and talk about the game in theory. So if you enjoy Pack and the conversation, definitely be sure to like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out all of Pack's links below. I'm sure all you guys already subscribe there, but if you're not, be sure to check him out. I'll drop his Twitch, Metafy, YouTube channel, all that good stuff. And yeah, be prepared for next week 'cause we'll be back for a bit of a different episode, but an exciting one.
yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.